Hi guys, welcome to a further podcast, this time with Harry McKeever, once again Managing Director, and Brett Harvey, Head of New Business. Today's topic is, should billing be a standalone best-of-breed solution? So I think, Brett, from my side, I think it's probably useful to go through a few elements today. I think, first of all, I'd like to talk about the worrying trend that we're seeing of billing providers themselves now looking at becoming wider organisations and simply tagging billing on. And is that something that should be embraced, or should we be concerned? I think I'd also like to look at the trend of large SMEs, and what we're seeing is partners moving away from bespoke solutions to then coming to a provider like Tekton to get that best of breed. And then, whilst obviously we're going to be in favour of best of breed billing solution, I'd also like us to pick apart some of the negatives of that and the considerations that partners may need to think about with further integrations, how they're connected into their wider business systems. So first of all, this trend that we're seeing of billing becoming a tag along, I'm expecting you to be particularly passionate about this subject, but do you get worried by that people are just seeing billing as a tag along, or have this perception?
Yeah, a little bit. So billing's such a business critical application. For me, you need to focus on a vendor that is an independent sole vendor of billing software, focus in on what they do best. And really that's what we do best. There's no distractions, we're just producing good billing software.
And do you think that classic cliche of you don't want to be jack of all trades and master of none? And do you think that applies to the billing world at the moment? There's obviously at times partners will come to us and they want CRM functionality, they want you to have ledger functionality, they want you to be that marketing tool, etc. Now we have a lot of those elements in it, but we don't pretend in my mind to be a CRM provider, because that's
not at all. There's plenty of vendors out there who have absolutely perfected that art. We're not going to be the next Salesforce CRM. We're not going to be the next Xero accounting platform. We can certainly integrate to them, but why try and reinvent the wheel? Equally, you don't see Salesforce trying to build a rating engine. You don't see Xero trying to do telecoms billing, and for good reason.
And do you think that's because each of those systems requires such a depth of understanding and knowledge to create an art and create that perfect solution?
Oh yeah, hugely so.
Yeah.
Hugely so. I mean, I've been doing telecoms billing for 9 or 17 years and I'm still learning things about it. So it's a very deep-rooted subject.
Do you think also partners now, over those 17 years, have a better appreciation of what a billing system can do? Or would you say, actually, obviously you've only been at Tekton for a handful of years now, do you think that's become more apparent even for yourself, moving to Tekton, and how much we specialise in billing?
Yeah, for sure. There is a mixed bag when I speak to partners. Without sounding too condescending, I think some of them can be a bit naive to it. And when you show them the reality of what a billing system can do and why it's different from a solution they're using at the moment, it can be very, very eye-opening for them. We quite often see partners just saying, well, billing's billing, isn't it? Until you see a different way of doing it, until you take a different perspective on it, I kind of get where they're coming from, but yeah, it can be quite eye-opening.
So the debate against a best-of-breed solution would obviously be that actually you then have to look at, as a business owner, integrating multiple different platforms. So how at Tekton do we address the fact that a partner may have a separate CRM system, a separate billing system, a separate accounting package? They might have a separate quoting tool. How do we address that?
Yeah, I mean, integration used to be a big, scary word, but really there's so many tools available on the market now, and the way that web-based applications like our Zoe platform have simple REST APIs, it's very, very easy to integrate two packages together. I mean, you can take an off-the-shelf middleware application like a Zapier, which is a join the dots exercise. You don't have to know any code to integrate two systems. I personally set up an integration between our own Zoe system here and our own Xero system here. No code, just join the dots. What we call a postcode, they call a zip code. What we call an account, they call a customer. And it really is that simple. But I think that there's also an importance of understanding where to draw the line with integrations. People can get too wrapped up in over-integrating. And
I think that's very fair, because I often hear the thing, we need it to integrate. And then when you actually delve deeper, it's like, but what do you need to integrate? And I don't know if that's just maybe consistency of data is what they're really meaning, is that they want to look in two separate systems but see the same information and it not be out of sync. But I think integration for the sake of integration is going to be a mistake, because you end up complicating processes that don't need to be complicated.
Yeah. And again, I think it's also a case of trying to push aside that legacy knowledge of other billing platforms and look at, well, what am I trying to achieve? What is the end result here? Let's take, for example, setting up a new customer in the billing system. Sure, we can integrate names and addresses. That's a pretty standard thing. But some people then start saying, well, how do I push all the product information from my CRM system to the billing system? And that's where you need to kind of throttle it a bit and say, well, do you really need to? Because when you look at the functions in the Zoe system, it's very, very quick and easy to do that manually. And in fact, as we said before, a CRM system like a Salesforce or a Dynamics isn't set up to know about telecoms billing. So all you're really trying to do with an integration there is reinvent the wheel. You're trying to replicate a billing system in the CRM system when you've already got a perfectly good billing system to start with. That's not to say you can't do that sort of integration. We often work with our partners to really understand their goals and look at the most efficient way of achieving something, whether that's integration or whether it's business processes.
I think that's interesting. I see this, and again, my background being a chartered accountant, I see this from the accounting perspective. So we often get asked around integrations with accounting packages. Now, for me, we post a set of monthly invoices. It is a one-time event, and we provide a bespoke upload for each of the leading account providers. Yet still we get asked the question, have you got integration? And I can see why people think they want it to be in sync, but the process of uploading, post an invoice on our system is essentially 2 clicks. 2 clicks to get that import into a Sage, a QuickBooks, a Xero. And it's one of those things that when you actually take a step back and think, yes, but why am I trying to integrate? And someone might say, well, okay, but I want to be able to provide bad debt notifications. I want to manage my bad debt. I want to see statements. It's like, well, yeah, that's exactly what you would use your accounting package for. But then they're like, but I want to generate the PDF. It's like, well, that's exactly what you use a billing system for. And actually, sometimes the level and depth of integration needs to be no more simple than I have a billing system that emails my customers with an attached PDF and itemization, and has access to a customer portal to interrogate those bills. I then have my accounting package, which I purely use to store the journal information of those transactions so that I can file my year-end accounts. However, that also provides a really nice credit control interface, which again, for example, Xero have honed over many years. It works. It's easy to use. It does exactly what it's meant to do. Actually, that's the most easy way to kind of manage that bad debt. And I think that's one of the big things that partners probably are at times fearful that they've got multiple systems, but actually sometimes it's understanding how often are those systems used and what is the nature of those interactions. A CRM is actually slightly differently. And I think obviously you're a Dynamics certified instructor. So I think that is different, because that's something where you want a customer service agent or a sales staff member to be able to log in and see, whether that's logging into the billing system, whether that's logging into the CRM, to see a live, up-to-date view of that current customer's account. What are they on? What tariffs have they got? What services have they got? How many services have they got? What have they been sold previously? Can I quote them new services? At what price shall I quote it? Now, that's the stuff that I can see the real benefits to.
Yeah, and there's no real danger in that either. Dragging information back from a billing system to a CRM system on a read-only basis, perfectly fine, not going to get in any trouble. The last thing you want, I'm a salesperson, you don't want your salesperson dipping into your billing system and playing around with data or changing data. If they want to view what services a customer have, great, but there's no need for them to be able to change it. So these are the things that we say about, okay, we'll work with our partners to understand the real integration requirements. Does it really need to be bi-directional, or is that actually a bad thing? Some cases, you just want it going one way.
Now, we've seen obviously a situation where your salesperson is using the CRM. They are off there creating deals, selling the world.
To do such a thing.
And then it gets to billing, and billing go, I can't bill that. It's impossible to bill that. Now, I think this is where the power of integrations can work. So, for example, we have a number of partners that have done this. They treat the billing system as the foundation of knowledge. They then push a product picker back into their CRM, which then means that sales agent can only go and pick products available in the billing system. And that then again, it protects everyone really. It protects the sales agent who sells something that they don't actually have. It protects the end customer who gets delivered a service or has to have the conversation where actually I've sold you this and it doesn't exist. It also protects billing later on down the line because I'm not having to manually fudge, create functionality that just simply doesn't exist. And actually that's the power of where integrations can work.
Yeah, absolutely. If you give them an off-the-shelf menu to choose from, these are your menu items, that's how you can sell something. You can still bespoke the pricing on those items, but it's important to have a rigid structure to what you're selling. Now, if you do need to go really out of the box, weird and wonderful, you could spend days, weeks, months building out an integration that allows complete control over it. But is that really an effective use of time? At the end of the day, you either have an in-house billing manager that can configure that manually in the billing system, or you take a bureau service where your billing vendor will do that for you. You just tell them in plain English what it is you've sold, and we'll work out all the nuances of the billing system and configure it for you.
Speaking of a bureau service, so that probably opens up the potential negative. If you go for a best of breed provider, does it cost more to go down that route rather than having an in-house solution with an in-house team, sunk costs essentially, it's managed by yourselves? Where do you sit on the balance of, is it more expensive or actually is it money well spent?
An in-house developed solution.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we've seen a big trend of, this year alone, we've had, I think 4, maybe 5 partners move away from their own in-house solution to the Zoe platform. These platforms, when they're developed in-house, yes, they are tailor-made, which gives the illusion that they're very practical, but you don't know what you don't know. And again, when you reveal what the Zoe platform can do, these partners realize, oh, actually, yeah, we have been held back by our billing system, or perhaps even more importantly, there's issues with legislation. Are they compliant with all of the regulations, all of the laws that are constantly changing from Ofcom? Business continuity. Sure, the platform may function as they need it to, but what happens when it breaks? Are they relying on one guy that's nearing retirement to develop that solution? Do they have it hosted in a robust, highly available way? The answer is often no.
Yeah. And I think also it's not even about that single point of failure of, I don't know, someone's getting towards retirement, or actually it's the fact of what happens when that person goes on holiday for 2 weeks? Do you have an entire team of people? Is it worthwhile spending all your money on an entire team of people who, again, may choose to move jobs every couple of years? That's the general trend in employment these days. You also have a real, and I see this slightly more from a business owner perspective. Historically, there was a clamour to have your own systems, your own intellectual properties. If you're looking to sell your business, you want it to have the asset of, oh, we've got our own system, we've got that sitting on our balance sheet, that's going to give us greater multiple. I actually think now, and particularly for our VC style backed partners, actually that's no longer the primary objective. The primary objective, as you rightly say, is to be compliant, is to be up to date, to have a system that is flexible, scalable, agile enough to cope with changing technologies, changing demands.
That valuable IP all of a sudden becomes a liability.
Yeah, precisely. And actually it ends up being one of the biggest risks for a VC when they go and assess that thing. And they'll say, well, you've only got 2 people who maintain that system. That isn't, we can't have that. Or you haven't updated it for the last 10 years. You no longer comply. I think that's the bigger risk for partners now.
And when we talk about, you're paying a salary for somebody to support this platform, to develop this platform, we're not talking about making people redundant here. One of the partners that we moved over this year from their own platform had a whole team of developers supporting and keeping that billing system alive. They've repurposed them, and they've now been able to crack on with other development projects in-house that genuinely do bring value to their business, that is a unique IP for them, and they no longer have to worry about the billing side of things.
Great. So we've obviously chatted a little bit about pros and cons. So are we of the conclusion that billing should absolutely be a standalone best of breed solution?
Absolutely, best of breed. Integration is a good thing, but don't fall into the trap of over integration. And if in doubt, speak to us. We deal with nearly 200 partners, most of which have some kind of integration requirement, and we see it from a lot of angles.
Perfect. Nicely summarised, Brett. Thank you very much for your time, and we will see you guys on the next one.